One of the topics that consistently shows up in my grief services is how little or how wrongly supported grievers are by their family, their friends, their coworkers, their employers, and their colleagues, and society in general. Today, we're going to explore what authentic, helpful support can look like. Maybe there are people in your life and in your grief that need to learn about this. I'm Jo McRogers, a grief therapist offering private therapy sessions, this YouTube channel, and now my online community called the Grievolution Collective. I call it that because grief needs a revolution, so join our Grievolution. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell on this video so that we can let YouTube know that grief needs to be seen and supported in so many different ways. The grievers that I spend time with demonstrate an entire spectrum of anger and despair and disappointment and isolation because of how support has been offered to them. It is often one of the most shocking experiences, both immediately after a loss and certainly after some longer term support is needed, days, weeks, and months after the death. We all grieve with the belief if they know me and love me, they will know how to support me well. When this belief proves to be false, then our grief and our isolation is increased. Our go-to people miss the mark emotionally for us, and then we find ourselves without the support that we expected and without the closeness of the people that we expected the support from. There is a woman named Megan Devine who works as an author, a therapist, an educator, and a grief advocate. She has put together a lovely video that captures so well much of what I want to say here today. So I'm going to share that video with you. She very kindly gives permission for it to be shared. So have a watch, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions at the end of this video we're sharing today.
So what do we do about all the pain we see in the world? All the pain we feel in our own lives? And why does it seem like our best efforts to help somebody feel better always backfire? I've been studying intense grief and loss, baby death, violent crimes, accidents, suicides, and natural disasters. And I've learned something really interesting. Cheering people up, telling them to be strong and persevere, helping them move on, it doesn't actually work. It's kind of a puzzle. It seems counterintuitive, but the way to help someone feel better is to let them be in pain. This is true for those giant losses and the ordinary everyday ones. Educator Parker Palmer writes, "The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, exactly as it is." He's talking about acknowledgement here. Acknowledgement is this really amazing multi-tool. It makes things better even when they can't be made right. For example, somebody's struggling. Their baby died, or there's been a bad accident, or their mom got sick, and they're just sad. It's way more helpful to join them in their pain than it is to cheer them up. But here's what we tend to do instead. You have 2 other children, you need to find joy in them. Or, you know what you need? You just need to go out dancing and shake it off. Or, I felt really sad once. Did you try acupuncture? We're not really sure what to do with someone's pain, so we do what we've been taught. We look on the bright side. We try to make people feel better. We give them advice. It's not like this is nefarious. I mean, we try to cheer people up because we think that's our job. We're not supposed to let people stay sad. The problem is, you can't heal somebody's pain by trying to take it away from them. Now, acknowledgement does something different. When a giant hole opens up in someone's life, it's actually much more supportive to acknowledge that hole and let pain exist. It's actually a radical act to let things hurt. It goes against what we've been taught. In order to really support you, I have to acknowledge that things really are as bad as they feel to you. If I try to cheer you up, you end up defending yourself and your feelings. If I give you advice, you feel misunderstood instead of supported. And I don't get what I want either, because I wanted you to feel better. it's pretty rare that you could actually talk somebody out of their pain. Rarely does the admonishment to look on the bright side actually heal things for someone. It just makes them stop telling you about their pain. It's so tempting to try to make things better. When somebody shares something painful, it's much more helpful to say, "I'm sorry that's happening. Do you want to tell me about it?" To be able to say, "This hurts," without being talked out of it, that's what helps. Being heard helps. It seems too simple to be of use, but acknowledgement can be the best medicine we have. It makes things better, even when they can't be made right.
As some background information, Megan Devine was working as a therapist back in 2001. She then watched as her partner Matt drowned in front of her in 2009. From that point, she has worked hard to own her own grief, to support her own grief, and she's now focused her career on, as she says, helping you live through things you never thought that you would face. All of her social links will be in the description of this video if you wish to seek more support from her. So after having watched this video, my first question is to ask you if this video represented who you are as a griever. Do you feel like it captured what your grief could benefit from in terms of support from those around you? Please leave a comment below of how different your grief experience would be or could have been if others knew about this approach to supporting a griever. I often state that others don't need to understand your grief, but they do need to respect your grief. Respecting whether you have a funeral or not, leaving or clearing out clothes, changing a bedroom into a den, or preserving the room as it was the day the person you love died. These are all such personal decisions that need respect. The last element that I would offer today would be presence. As the griever, you have no choice but for your grief to be ever present. But as time passes, after a while, after the funeral, after a 3-month mark, after all of the firsts in the first year have now passed, those around you have the privilege of stepping into the grief or not. Just because you have returned to work, because you're now announcing that you're having a baby, because you have decided to take a trip, because you have found a new love in your life, does not mean that your grief is over. Those who keep extending, offering acceptance and respect for your grief with a consistent long-term presence of days, weeks, months, and even years later, they are the strongest, truest supporters of your grief. I recently received an email from a griever on the anniversary of the death of a woman that he loved. This woman was a colleague of mine who then became a client, and I know I'm not role modeling anything other than blurred boundaries on my part, but I am also a professional snob, and I wasn't about to turn her over to anyone else's support. Please don't report me to my college. But the email that I received told me how much the support that I was offering meant to them in their last days, weeks, and hours. As I was also grieving her death at the 1-year anniversary, through this email, I felt acknowledged, I felt respected, and the support was so present a year later. My heart was full and sad all at the same time, but it was the kind of grief support that I, as a grief worker, needed. And the next question that I want to ask of you is an educate me, educate us question. The video from Megan Devine speaks of acknowledgement. I added in the concepts of respect and continuing presence. Teach us all. Please share with us, what would you add? What do you want from your supporters? What would change your grief journey? What would impact the trajectory of your grief? Please leave a comment below and know that I read every comment. Be sure to share this video with anyone who is missing the mark in how to best support you in your grief. Who in your life needs to see this video? As we work to change how grief is seen and supported in the world, I send you kind thoughts, kind words, and a kind heart. For more information about joining our online community that explores so many concepts, tools, and research about how to support grief, please watch the video that is up next. Take good care, and I will see you next time.